Hey, so it's like shortly after 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which means that I guess technically something New Year East Coast. I don't know. I don't even know when this video is gonna go up. But I thought, um, keeping in mind the whole arbitrary Gregorian calendar time shift thing occurring here shortly, I just noticed my fridge is open. I should probably close that. I'll deal with it later. Given that that's happening, I figured maybe I could sit back, talk for a little bit. It's been a little while since I sat down and talked with you guys. I thought I might do a little bit of a retrospective on my year, on my 2016 in particular. I'm sure for most people this year was full of a lot of pretty shitty things. I'll be honest here. The election, protests, pipelines, racial tension. I I hate so much the fact that in this absolute piece of shit garbage year of 2016, it happened to be probably legitimately the best year of my life that I've ever lived, except maybe when I was a kid, but I wouldn't have known any better. This year for me, I'm gonna do what John Green did for Vlogbrothers. I'm gonna tell you four things that happened to me this year that were just straight up good things. Four things that made this year worth living. Thing number one. This actually happened a little bit before this year started, but I moved to Seattle. I cannot tell you how incredibly amazing it's been for me to live here. I mean, this place by no means is Seattle perfect, but I live in a place where there's jobs, there's people, there's things to do. Every single tool that I could possibly have asked for to get myself out of the depression I was in for years, I can find in this city. And I was hesitant at first moving here. This is a big city, and I had never really even been in a big city before moving here. Of course, I've visited them, I've passed through them, but never spent more than a few days at a time in a big city. This was such a weird place to be for the first couple months I was here. 3 months, actually. But I was happy to be here, if for no other reason than to be in a place where I could find ways out of being depressed. And you're gonna find that this whole depression thing is like a central key point in this video, because that's really what my year was thing number two on my list of four things that were good that happened. This was my year where I don't want to say I beat my depression, but this was the year where I actually got a grasp, I got a handle on it, a solid handle on managing my depression that did not rely on anyone else's help. I did not need anybody to get me out of my depression. I got me out of my depression. I just needed a boost. My parents gave me a boost, getting me out of the house, finally. My roommate Carson, who offered me the place to live here, gave me a boost, and not only a boost, but like dropped down a freaking ladder down the hole I was in, right? But I climbed out of the hole. I did it all on my own. And since then, if I really want to follow this conceit, extended metaphor, whatever it's called, if I really want to follow that, after I got out of the hole, the first thing I did was turned around and put like a net over the hole. The net was my job, by the way, which is thing number three on my list. But anyway, I'll get to that in a bit. It has been so incredible for me to look back on the last year and compare it to the last 2 years, the last 3 years, the last 4 years, the last... How long has it been? 18, 4... Wow, it's been 4.5 years since I first went to college. Actually, no, that was when I graduated. I went to college almost a little over 4 years ago. Sorry, I'm messing up my words. To look back on all that time and see just how far I've come as a functional person. Pardon the burp. I just ate some pizza a little bit ago. My voice probably sounds a little sticky too. I've been trying to drink water, but I keep neglecting it because I'm a lazy piece of shit. Anyway, Yeah, what was I saying? Something depression? I don't know. I could go on and on about how I've gotten a good handle on it and it was all my fault, but I'm gonna stop there. I think you get the gist of it. I know it doesn't seem like it really because I've been making fewer videos and the videos I've been making are generally pretty somber in tone, but that's just because that's how my brain works sometimes. I spend so much time thinking that I often forget to stop and, you know, smile a bit, have some fun, climb out of a hole. The third thing of this year that I mentioned a bit ago is I got a job. And not only did I get a job, I've had jobs before, but I got a job and I got me the job. I didn't get a job through pushing and prodding like my last one because my mom was just like, okay, no internet access until you're employed, which was the case for like 6 months after I moved home from Wazoo. Something like that. Some ridiculous amount of time. 4 months. Long enough that in my mind at the time it was too much. The jobs I'd had before that were either I was put into the job by someone else, or it was the same thing. My mom was just like, okay, you're getting a freaking job because, so help me, you're getting a freaking job. But this time, when I was living here in Seattle, it took me 3 months to find a job when I moved here. And I found a job through my own search, my own work, my own everything, all of it. I did it all myself. There are a few things that are so gratifying to someone who's dealt with severe depression. Few things that are more gratifying than, you know, gaining control over your life, feeling like you actually are able to not be depressed, and you're able to not be depressed because you're the one who's, you know, affecting your life for once. It wasn't my mom who made me get a job. It was me who made me get a job. That kind of thing. It's, the ability to have control over my life and my well-being and now my finances and like my insurance and my eating habits and all this stuff. The fact that I have the ability, if I wanted to, right now at, what time is it? 8:21 p.m. I could get up from my desk. I could go to my car. I could drive to Canada if I wanted. I couldn't go into Canada because I don't have a passport or extended license yet, but I could drive up to Canada. I could just do that. It's like once you have the ability to once you start to realize that you're the one who's in control of your life, when you get to a point where you are, the whole world opens up. It feels like a small world because everything is interconnected, but suddenly it goes from a small world that's local and that's just where you are and that's just your circle and that's just the people who have like an effect over you, to the whole world is tiny but now I can experience the whole thing. I had no idea just how valuable this would be to me. I mean, I knew it was a big factor. I had problems in college because I didn't have control over my finances or apparently my mental health. No one had control over that. I had problems after my parents and I moved across the state because I didn't have control over the things that I felt I should, and I was forced to have control over things that I felt were irrelevant to me. I moved to Seattle, and suddenly I could do whatever. Now, keep in mind, when I first moved here, I didn't have a car, and that car, that is item number 4 on my list of good things that happened in 2016. I got a car. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and say this right off the bat. I didn't buy the car. The car was a gift. My parents were already planning on giving me this car. They had been planning on it for a while, but due to some pretty unfortunate circumstances. If you remember when I made the video entitled Memorial, I think it was, when my parents and I drove down to California, I came back shortly after that. I drove myself back up here instead of taking the train home or getting the ride from them. And I drove back up here with the car that we went down in, and over the following month or so, I managed to go through all the steps to get it registered in my name. Got new tabs. I insure the car now. if you want to talk about when I moved to Seattle being a point of gaining control over my life, getting that car, like when I moved to Seattle, I had the ability to get on a bus and this is something I literally did. I got home from work at like 11 something one night, 11:20 I think it was, because at the time I worked until 10:30 and then the bus ride home was nearly an hour. Got home at 11:20 and I'm just like, I'm just gonna play video games all night. I have the next 2 days off. Why not, right? So I played video games all night, and as the sunrise was starting to approach, it was like getting maybe an hour or so before sunrise. I'm just sitting there thinking, you know what? I could totally take a bus to a park by the water. Because where I live in Seattle, I'm basically like 15 minutes from Lake Washington and 15 minutes from Puget Sound. I live on like a little peninsula, which is terrifying if you look at it from a map from like a bird's eye view, but it's alright where I am now. But I totally decided before the sun rose, I'm gonna get on a bus and I'm gonna go to a park with a beach, and apparently a large cliffside with a trail on top of it, which I didn't know was there the first time I went to this park, at sunrise, just because I can. So I went to that park. I got my backpack. I walked over to the 24-hour grocery store nearby. I bought a protein shake. It was a mango-flavored protein shake. It wasn't very good, but it kept me going for the next 2 or 3 hours it took me to get home. And then I went to the bus stop, and I sat there, and I waited, and I got on a bus, and I got all the way out to that park just as the sun was rising. And I'll tell you now, I was facing west. The sun rises in the east, of course. I was facing west. So up on that cliffside, there was a bench, and I parked it on that bench for a while, and I just sat there, and I watched the sunlight creep over the mountains across the sound. Because on the other side of Puget Sound from Seattle is a mountain range. It's the Olympic Mountains. And I watched the sunrise, the sun just like slowly start to envelop the mountains, starting at the peaks and just working its way down. And it was seriously one of the most beautiful things I'd ever done. And then as soon as the sunlight got down to the base of the mountains, I realized, oh wait, it's actually really freaking cold and I don't have a jacket on. So that kind of put a damper on the whole experience. But the fact that I was able to have the ability to do this because I can was amazing to me. It was just ridiculous. And now and then after I got a car, to bring this whole point back around to number 4 on the list, after I got a car, I can drive to Taco Bell at 2 in the morning, and I can get home less than 20 minutes later with some tacos. I mean, like, if I were still without a car, it takes like an hour and a half to get to the Taco Bell and back. But with my car? Nah, less than 20 minutes. And that includes waiting for the order to be made. It's mind-boggling to me what having a car actually means. It's a pain in the ass, honestly, that this country is so incredibly car dependent. Like, you can't really go anywhere or do anything without your own vehicle at all in the US, which I hear is actually somewhat unusual in a lot of other countries. But, I mean, public transit is okay. It's not perfect. The city wasn't exactly built for buses. It was built for I don't know, carriages, which are car-sized. What was I saying? I don't remember where I was going with that. I'm just sitting here thinking 2016 was a shit year for most of the world. It really was. But when you get down and you talk to, like, an individual person, pretty much everyone should have a list of 4 good things that happened to them over the year, right? I know it's important to focus on a lot of the negative stuff just to try and combat it over the next year or 2 years or millennia or however long it takes. I know it's important to focus on those things because there's shit that needs to be done, I know. But a little bit of a retrospective on 2016. On the good things that happened in 2016 would benefit all of us, I think. Yeah. I figured I'd make this video while I'm still thinking about it. Oh, you want to hear something really silly? Today is New Year's Eve. I had to work. Tomorrow's New Year's Day. I have to work. Today, I've told you guys how I normally do closing shifts at work, right? Well, I didn't do a closing shift at work today. I was scheduled to be in at 8 o'clock in the morning. 4 hours before I'm usually at work. It wasn't very easy, because I closed last night. Which is why I bought myself pizza today, because I figured, you know what, I deserve it. I've been through enough these past few days, and tomorrow's going to be an absolute shit show. I know that for a fact. But in between the bullshit shifts and the fact that it's 8 o'clock something p.m. and I've got hours and hours left before I need to be asleep, I figured I'd sit down, I'd talk for a bit, and I got some things to say. If you want to share, I'd be interested to hear what anyone else happens to think of for some good stuff that happened this year. It's probably a pretty valuable pick-me-up for a lot of folks hearing these kinds of things. Anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. Catch you guys next year, apparently, because I can still make those jokes. And I will be able to make those jokes for like the 2 hours this video is still live on part of the U.S., 48 contiguous U.S. states. I don't know. I'm doing this because I can. Judge how you will. I'll see you guys next time with some more whatever it is I think of doing and stuff. Oh. By the time this video goes live, there should be a new song up. I think. Either that or it'll be up tomorrow. One of those. I promised it ages ago. It's coming. I swear. Anyway, yeah, I'm done. Catch you later.